best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best? 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 What's the second best?
Thank you for joining Discover Crypto. Smash the like buttons because today we're going to talk about Bitcoin and why you should stop selling your Bitcoin because the Fed just did this. What is this? We're going to break it down. It happened last night, and we're already seeing them do more of this morning. We're going to have a complete breakdown of what this means for Bitcoin. Bitcoin Gold, just that chart made a major move. We got to discuss that. And we have some year-end price predictions we're going to be looking at. And I'm joined here by TJ, special TJ episode. TJ on a Tuesday.
Hey.
TJ, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling like the definition of comfy in spot. Happy moisturized. Got my new Christmas shirt on. So, yeah, feeling great and excited to see what we've been talking about for a long time start to play out. I know we're going to get into it, but the Fed just did the thing, and it's starting to look a lot like liquidity, or starting to look a lot like stimulus, I guess, in 2026. So I was here in 2019 and 2020, and I know what comes next. So at this point, I've done all my work. I can just pretty much sit back and let the powers that be pump my bags for the next year. So I'm happy about it.
All right. And everybody hit the like button, or I will not talk, and I'll just stare into the camera for the next 57 minutes. So you do not want to see that. He's just like, I've seen that 1,000-mile stare before, but let's look at Bitcoin because that's creating a 1,000-mile stare. Bitcoin, the 10 a.m. manipulation is back. You can tell by the wicks. You can tell by the size of the moves here. I mean, we go to the 1 minute chart. Look right there preceding 10 a.m. Major move for Bitcoin. So this is kind of what we're expecting, par for the course. We see a lot of manipulation. And when you zoom out a little, it is just BARTs as far as the eye can see. We said this last week. We're saying it again this week. The BARTs just won't stop, TJ. The BARTs, and if you don't know the BART pattern, just kind of picture a Bart Simpson head inside there, and you just see it over and over again. So we are going to talk about manipulation. We're going to talk about the powers that be and what the Fed did. But first, let's look at the broader crypto market. We're going to hit refresh. We want that fresh data. Bitcoin's up. ETH is up. We're seeing BNB with a little bit of life. Solana with a little bit of life here. And Cardano with a nice little dump. But when I checked this morning, Knight was one of the biggest gainers. So it looks like people selling their ADA for Knight, focusing on the privacy L2 there. Canton is up 4.5. We kind of talked about that yesterday. Zcash up 30% for the week. And if we look for the big losers, look at that. ADA, Mantle, Memecore, Shiba Inu, Stellar, Polygon, surprisingly for this one, and Algorand also all down, and Athena also down. So we're seeing, in my opinion, a lot of strong projects. Ondo, I don't think WorldCoin is a project that I like the thesis of or the ethos of, but I do think it is going to be a big gainer in 2026. So we're seeing a lot of quality, projects that should maybe be pumping, and they're starting to dump. TJ, do you have any ideas, suggestions on why we're seeing just a lot of projects in the red today?
I just think it's with Athena and stuff, I think there's a ton of competition when it comes to stable coins. They were in one of my picks as kind of a institutional wrapper for stable coins, but there's a lot of politics at play, obviously, when it comes to that sort of stuff. So that one's not too surprising. I mean, the ones that have been catching a bid recently with these pumps are the ones that are generally, the Canton has been performing well, Zcash, Midnight, some of the newer stuff. Not Zcash, but Midnight and Canton being some of the newer stuff. So not too surprising. Crypto definitely has a new shiny object syndrome where the people that are here every day, like you and I, like to rotate into new stuff. Yeah, that's true. Also, Athena had some Eternal Affairs as well. So, kind of reminds me of Aave. I'm still disappointed in watching all that unfold. I haven't dumped my Aave position yet because I do think, the Dow still, $100 million a year is nothing to sneeze at for the Dow, but I'm just watching. There's definitely a new power struggle going on, and Drew and Kelly and I were talking just before the show about a comment that Scott Bessent made. They're going to go into this in a lot more detail later on this afternoon, but he previously said that he thinks a new, basically like a new Bretton Woods type agreement is going to happen soon. He said definitely within the next 4 years, and he wants to be a part of that. He said that, I want to say a few months ago, maybe longer. So if you guys don't know what the Bretton Woods agreement is, that's more or less what made the dollar the global reserve currency. So he's alluding to a change in the global reserve currency or something like that. So um, I do believe we are seeing a foundational shift in the world of finance. Obviously, the reason we're here is we believe it's heading towards Bitcoin. We do think Bitcoin can change your life and is changing the world, and we're going to be here to watch it happen. So,
Yeah, and those who are wondering, Bretton Woods established 1944.
Right.
Pretty wild year, that 1944. A lot of crazy things happen. But yeah, little town, and a sleepy little town in New Hampshire. And this story kind of reminds me of the sleepy little Georgian island.
Yeah, it's very similar. Yeah, to Jekyll Island with this when central banks kind of became a thing, and a lot of the similar players that were involved in creating central banks had a hand in Bretton Woods agreement. They also, had a lot of control of a lot of the gold at the time, and so it basically made the U.S. dollar the reserve currency because, yeah, exactly. And we had the dollar was pegged to gold at the time. We got everybody else in the world to back their currency with dollars, and then in the 70s, Nixon said, actually, we're going to remove the gold backing from the dollar, and everybody in the world became fiat currency overnight thanks to that. And that has in large part destroyed society, and here we are.
Yeah, and then the CIA purposely got caught breaking into the Watergate Hotel. Purposely.
Yeah.
I said it. It was on purpose. Look into the culprits there. But TJ, I do have let's just say a fail-safe, a plan B, something that I am going to fall back on. So this is going to be the job I'll apply for if crypto dies. I don't know if you've seen this kid. This kid is a phenom of the subway system. This is basically going to be, I'm a use my masculine strength, my high T. I will stop subways with my hands, and then I'll open the automatic door for people. And I'll even close it for the lads out there. So, and then I'm gonna help it get started. So that's
awesome.
That's gonna be my new job there.
You just need to put a little QR code on your vest for Bitcoin tips, and you're ready to rock.
It'll say, "Ask me about ADA" on the back of my T-shirt. But plot twist, TJ, I'm talking about your dog. Not the coin. Yeah. I have a picture of your dog on there. But let's talk about, what did the Fed do? They did this. What is this? It injected money into the system, the next T-bill purchase, and we're kind of looking at what we have moving forward. This happened very, very recently. Let's go. Breaking U.S. banks. Fed Reserve just pumped $16 billion into the U.S. banking system through overnight repos. But what if I told you that number is 50% higher when you include mortgage-backed securities? This is the second largest liquidity injection since COVID. And I found something in the charts as well, breaking another Fed injection. So they pumped $16 billion into the system yesterday. By 8 a.m. today, they've injected an additional $2 billion. And I have the chart right there. You can see $2 billion in Treasury, mortgage-backed securities, another $1 billion. So really, they've injected $3 billion. And this was by 8 a.m. this morning. And so if you're in California, 5 a.m. this morning, they've already injected $3 billion into the ecosystem. So this is breaking news. Let me hit refresh because this is directly from the New York Fed. I'm going to hit refresh. I want to see if this number grows. Small chance, but it's worth a shot here. It's still at three. So let's break down what this means. So Fed injects $26 billion, like I said, higher than 8. Will the crypto market record a year-end rally? So the New York Fed just continued to inject liquidity into the economy through its overnight repo operations. This marks a positive for the crypto market, which is eyeing a year-end rally, even as optimism for crypto traders is fading away. Now, they injected $26 billion, $16 billion in T-bills, but also almost $10 billion in mortgage-backed securities. This follows a similar move that we saw last week. They injected more money. We'll look at those numbers. In the absence of a year-end rally, Bitcoin, other major assets, including XRP, ETH, Solana, they're going to end the year in the red. Bitcoin currently down 6% year to date. ETH, XRP, Solana down 11, 10, and 36% respectively. Polymarket, though, is showing optimism fading for the year-end rally. Odds of a 95K at the end of the year, 3%. Odds of 80K, 4%. And candid traders expecting Bitcoin to trade within a tight range till the year ends. And honestly, they're betting on it going a lot lower versus than they are betting on it going higher, folks. So Bitcoin did get some really great news. Market, they're not really taking this into consideration. TJ, I do have a theory for people. Do you know about tax harvesting?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
of course you do. It's you and your dad. I'm not joking. You and your dad, you probably talked about it over Christmas and Thanksgiving. Let's talk about some tax harvesting. No, those that don't know, tax harvesting, you harvest a loss. But then with crypto, there's special rules. It hasn't hit crypto, but it has hit stocks. You can sell and rebuy immediately. And then that counts as, you get your tax loss, and then you're kind of stuck in an investment. So you don't pay taxes on that. We're at the end of the year. They could sell Bitcoin today, record the loss, buy it on the first, buy it on the second, and then they're good. They have a tax advantage for doing so. With stocks, you have to wait 6 months. There is no rule for Bitcoin. And so they're buying Bitcoin. It's down 20%, 30%. They go ahead and sell it, give themselves a better tax bill, and then they go ahead and buy it on the first, on the second, on the third.
Yeah,
that might be what we're seeing.
It resets your basis as well. It's actually worked pretty well for me with Cardano this year, unfortunately, because a lot of the Cardano I acquired at a much higher price. And so when I needed to sell some, it was like, well, I get a pretty good tax write-off for this, but I still have a very, a decent chunk of Cardano. It's still a pretty significant holding that I have, but yeah, it's tax loss harvesting for sure. And I did talk with my dad about it, but also Ernest from Decrypted.tax. I'm meant to get him scheduled. Maybe we'll get him later in the week. If you guys aren't, this is one, and this, I don't know if you knew this or if you've heard this. I didn't even know this when I started working with him, but when somebody explained it to me, it made a lot of sense. I've heard never hire a CPA to do your taxes, only hire a tax attorney, because CPAs are trained every way to look for a possible tax. Because when somebody else is doing your taxes, they're the ones kind of that have to, speak to it, so to speak, if there's any questions, or it's kind of their reputation on the line if there's some kind of discrepancy. So if it's a CPA, they're going to look for every possible way that you could pay taxes and help you pay taxes for that. An attorney is looking at it from a legal perspective of what can I defend, what can they prove, what is acceptable to them in the court of law. And they're going to be basically, CPA is going to look for every way you can pay taxes. A tax attorney is going to look for every way you don't have to pay taxes. So Ernest, Decrypted.tax, I put his link in all of the descriptions of all of our videos. I highly recommend him. I would love to have him come on. Obviously, I'm not a tax attorney, so take all of that I just said with a grain of salt. But somebody told me that not that long ago. I'm like, yeah, that makes actually a lot of sense. So, yeah, it brings a tax attorney does a much, much better job. And the other thing about it is they are, if you ever get audited, if you ever have to go to court, they go to court on your behalf. You don't have to hire other services. So yeah, highly recommend using Decrypted.tax and Ernest. And we're going to have him come on and kind of talk about year-end strategies and that sort of stuff. Kind of, not to get hung up on taxes and regulation, but similarly, Bitcoin IRA, if we pull up their website real quick, if you are trying to stock up your tax-free account, your IRA, you can, you have a day or two left if you haven't contributed this year, because you're capped on how much you can contribute per year. I think it varies a little bit depending on age and all that sort of stuff, but I think it's around 6 or 7K, maybe 6,500. And so if you wanted to stock one up, you could. Because if you haven't done it this year, dump your whole 6,500 in this year. Then January comes around, you can dump more in early next year or contribute all next year or whatever. So if you're trying to top one up or get one going, again, you can trade. You can, they've got all kinds of different altcoins in there, and it's completely tax free. So when you go to retire, 7,500 ish. Okay, it's not 65, 75. When you go to retire in 20, 30 years, and Bitcoin's sitting at $5-10 million per coin, you're going to be glad you're not paying capital gains tax on that.
Yeah, 100%, and especially if you have a luxury tax on the thing that you just bought. So it's like, God, you're getting taxed from every single angle, every single hole is just getting attacked and penetrated at that point. Now I'm sorry for that one, TJ. Why did I do that? But let's talk about Trump. This is breaking news. Let's not talk about the background. I'm not talking about that. This is he's talking about
Well, I was just
Powell.
going to say, speaking about getting attacked and penetrated, here we go.
All right. He went there, folks. He went there. I was trying to optimize my screen size real quick because I had hold on. I had a little screensaver from something. Let's get it.
Why do we
going.
have Israel's flag right there? Just, question for the chat. Chat, tell me.
I'm
Chat, tell
not
me.
weighing in on this one. But
Yeah.
Trump said he's getting really, really close to firing you know who.
You asked Jay Powell to
He's not-
resign from the board entirely.
So, all right, very fair. He's not going to ask. He's asking, will he ask him to resign?
Ask Jay Powell to resign from the board entirely.
Be a favor to the nation, but he's come close. I mean, we're getting pretty close. I would fire him. I'd love to fire him, but we're so close. Maybe I still might.
He will never take anything off the table. So he's saying he might fire him, but probably not. Why? Because we're so close to the end of his regime. I'm saying regime, not his chairmanship post here. That's going to be coming to a conclusion before too long, within the next 4 or 5 months there. So once that happens, we are going to get a Trump crony, someone that will be a little bit more aligned with Trump's financial incentives, and his financial incentives are going to be to pump assets. So 2026 is going to be a very, very interesting year amid this backdrop. Now, that's just one part of the window, one part of the pie there. We got a lot of other stuff here when you're looking at what's going on with the feds here. That's what it was. It was, you know what? When I do the YouTube screen, it's a different size. So when we have audio, so that's what's going on there. But Bitcoin now flashing a extremely rare signal. This has only happened 6 times in its entire history, and is measuring Bitcoin to basically just an algorithm based on global liquidity. And so the green line, think of it as money in the world, money floating around in the system. You can kind of derive what Bitcoin's price should be compared to that. There's $100 floating in the world. Maybe Bitcoin should take up 2 or 3 of those. You can kind of measure the movement here. Bitcoin. So we're looking at when the white line is below the green line. This has only happened 6 times. Right here, look at that green line. You'll never get Bitcoin at a cheaper price. Look right here. You'll essentially never get Bitcoin at a cheaper price. Maybe it went down a little, it went from a little over 1,000 to a little under 1,000. We go, all right, so now we have Bitcoin oversold, relatively expensive. So what happens? Bitcoin crashes. Then it gets cheap for a third time. Look at that. That is the lowest you will get.
That's 2019 right there. And that is what I keep saying. The liquidity and the macroeconomic environment we've been in towards the end of this year reminds me so much of what we were experiencing in 2019. And that right there is, if you just kind of, to me, that screenshot of 2019 and where we are right there, it's saying 2026 now, right at the very end, are the most similar. That's when, same thing we were getting with these Fed repo injections, same thing with banks going under and liquidity crisis.
Same
and
thing
all
with
this sort of
social
stuff.
interests. If you talk to BitCoin, no one's interested. No one's, making videos. No one's watching videos except for the diehards, except for you. So smash that like button.
Stimulus came in 2020, everything. That's part of why I believe we're going to see this happen early 2020. And it was mid to late 2019. A lot of this stuff started to happen. We started to see the injections. Obviously, the big stuff started early 2020. And it usually takes, maybe 2 to 4 months for this to trickle into retail, into assets, into risk on, because it has to get out of the hands of the banks and some of those types of people. They're the easiest one, or the first ones that get access to this. If you guys aren't familiar with the Cotillion effect, we've talked about it a lot over the years on this channel, but go look it up, the Cotillion effect. It's basically he who is closest to the money printer wins over time. And that is another thing that gets reflected through all of this stuff. So everything in me says that what we're setting up for now is going to be a more explosive version of the 2020-2021 run next year in 2026.
All right, let's look at Byron Hard D. I guess he gets a Hard D with his wife. His wife took his last name, Hard D. Global liquidity, far more important than M2. Money in the system, not just created. Now, someone said it was 5. No, this is the 6th one. So that's number 3. Let's see right here. You will not get cheaper Bitcoin literally ever. Then we have the quick crash in March 2020. We're not going to say the keywords, but we know what happened right then. You will not get cheaper Bitcoin ever.
Yeah.
We got it again.
2022.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right here, 2020, and then we go to 2022. This is going to be the bottom of the bear market. You will never get Bitcoin cheaper. Now, right here, it stayed below, the global liquidity. So, I mean, if you bought here, you got Bitcoin at 19, 20,000, and you missed out on the move to 16,000. I don't think anyone's upset that they bought at 20 versus
Nope.
16. And then we have right here for the sixth time, almost every single time, you will not get Bitcoin ever cheaper. And then the one outlier is, you got in at 20 versus 16. So, we are saying Bitcoin is going higher in 2026. Some might call us crazy, but I'm just looking at the data, and the data is screaming at me. We are going higher in 2026.
Screaming. Every single one of those things you pointed out were generational buying opportunities. Every single one. They were like, if you went as hard as you could with everything you had at those moments, you are setting your bloodline up for a very long time. And that's how I feel that we're at right now. And 87K has proven to be a pretty strong bottom. It seems like it's the bottom at this point. We'll see if we get another wick down or anything like that.
Maybe we pull like a little move here. Okay, it was 20, it drops to 16. That's going to be a 25% drop. 25% drop from here is going to be 20K. So
which puts a lot of people in range with that 67, 69K kind of price target, which is I'm not ruling out. That being said, when Bitcoin's, pushing $1 million, I don't think you're going to care if you bought it at 69 or 87. You're like, hey, I'm a multi-millionaire now. Thanks, Bitcoin. You changed my life. So this opportunity, and this is why I scream it, and it's always at the bottoms of the market, the most borings of the market. Everybody leaves when the best opportunities are here. I can never understand why that happens. But look at the data, look at the opportunity. The people way smarter than I am have crunched all kinds of data that shows now is 2026 is the year. It is the time to we've had an incredible opportunity to accumulate. I'm still buying Bitcoin heavy and Ethereum heavy. I haven't done a ton of altcoins yet, and I understand people that are frustrated with altcoins. But if you just decide to take your time and be patient, you say like, you know what, I'll get rich in 5 or 10 years instead of 5 or 10 minutes, then you'll probably be all right with Bitcoin.
Yeah, and I'll say 3 of the last 5 times I bought altcoins, it's me asking the chat, we are down. This is a red day. There's a lot of fear. I'm deploying capital. Should I buy Bitcoin or should I buy, I think I've thrown out Chainlink, I've thrown out Solana. You guys just scream buy the altcoin every single time. I've been trying to tell you guys, no, you need to up your Bitcoin allocations here. Monetary reset is here. You were 100% right. Ash, catch them. I hope you do catch them all. But I only recognize 151 Pokemon. Any number past that is blasphemy, and it's heretics. Only heretics believe that. All right, now you want another bottom indicator chart here. This one's a bottom indicator. It's long-term holder supply net position. These are the people holding Bitcoin for a while. They have finally quit selling for the first time since July. And if you look at the last time we saw long-term holders finally quit selling, it was a low. It was right before we ended up dipping to 74K. You could ride that all the way up to 126K. So this is also one of those things like you could buy right here. Maybe it goes down another, couple $1,000, maybe another 5-10%. But that was also a great buying opportunity, assuming you took profits, which I'm guessing not enough of us did. All right, now we do have whales out there. They're buying Metaplanet, bought another $448 million worth of Bitcoin. They announced this yesterday. They now hold 35,000 Bitcoin worth $3 billion. Here's where it gets painful. Average price 102, $500 million in unrealized losses. So they're feeling the squeeze, but are they panic selling, TJ?
No, I think they'll be fine. I mean, Metaplanet, David Bailey, this is not his first rodeo. He's largely, I'm sure he didn't do it alone, but largely responsible for orange pilling the Trump administration, getting them to the Bitcoin conference. I think they're basically running the Michael Saylor playbook in Japan. They're going to run it on a little bit of a smaller scale, but I think they're going to do just fine. So, yeah, good to see him back to buying. And there you go.
It looks like a sci-fi video game.
I like it. From a single hotel to the future.
There you go. Can I go into like a Dune themed hotel room? That's what I want to know. Or a Bitcoin mining themed room, and it just stinks.
Yeah.
All right. Listen, we got some other bottom indicator charts. Bitcoin versus gold. We just did a breakout on the falling wedge today. This is breaking, and I noticed something. So this is on the line chart. You can see guess you could say it kind of happened Monday, and we're looking at Tuesday now. I would say the breakout looks a little bit more confirmed. Not only are we breaking out of this falling wedge, which is bullish, typically goes up about 2/3, 3/4 of the time. We're also breaking a multi-month downtrend from October. You can see it right here. But when you zoom out, you'll see, screenshot this in your mind. Screenshot it. Now close your eyes. Now reopen your eyes. It's the same picture, Jim. It's the same picture. No, this is different. But that's exactly what it looked like last time we broke out. This time we're a little bit lower. But that's a very, very similar chart. We're breaking this multi-month downtrend, also breaking out of this shorter term falling wedge, the falling wedge a little bit below the downtrend, the falling wedge a little bit below the downtrend there. And this took us from 25 ounces of gold per Bitcoin to 37 ounces of gold per Bitcoin. We got one more. You can kind of see it right here. A little bit different structure, but pretty similar. 22 ounces of gold per Bitcoin to 40 ounces of gold per Bitcoin. And so now we're at 20 ounces of gold per Bitcoin. Again, can we maybe get the breakout? Can we maybe get back up to 40? Time's going to tell, but this has historically been a pretty good reversal indicator. And it does look like Bitcoin, it's time to claw back like Vecna from Stranger Things, time to claw back some of those gains that the shiny metals have been enjoying. And it's time for the digital metal, digital gold, or it's time to shine here. And speaking of Stranger Things, TJ, I stopped watching after the 4th season. I haven't even watched the newest season. And I'm wondering, any of the Disco fam, has anybody else just quit watching Stranger Things in the middle of the show? I have zero interest to watch the new season.
Yeah, I think I watched season 1. I think they lost me in season 2.
You were smarter. You were smarter. I loved it in the beginning. I was a dork. I was the lead in my school for Accelerator Reader program. I was in the chess club. I'm not kidding. I was the first in my high school to catch all 150 Pokemon on Pokemon Red or Blue. I can't remember. It was like there was a group of us. I was the first to get the Tauros, get the Vaporeon, get all the things. So I got nerd bona fides. And
yeah,
and
now you're a crypto YouTuber. I don't know if you can say was. I think you are. I don't think it's a past tense.
All right. Looks like I'm not alone. We also got people stopping at season 2, season 1. Another person didn't make it to 2, quit after 3. Same thing. First, it just took too long. They're too old. It's a little weird. Yeah, it looks like I'm not alone.
Yeah.
With the Diddy documentary.
Steve said I'm close to canceling my Netflix account. I am too. If I just took a minute to focus on it. But this is what kills me is all these streaming services. They're all trying to get a football game so that way people don't cancel their services. But it's true. There's just too much slop on there right now, in my opinion. So
yeah, guys, don't cancel. We're gonna have 2 football games for the entire year, and then a third game we'll do the halftime show, but we won't show the game.
Right.
Like I guess I won't cancel this for $15-20 a month or something. I don't know. Fury was good. Moving to Paramount. I got all the things, and I hate it. I hate it. But let's talk about Bitcoin here. There's too many freaking apps. All right, Bitcoin bull case. We got gold. We got Powell getting fired. We got Fed ejections. We got long-term holders not selling. We got Metaplanet. We got just historical. Definitely a great time to buy. That takes us to some other strong signals. This is why we're so bullish in 2026. It could just be the classic Christmas bear trap. According to James Bull, it's setting a Christmas bear trap, which will be reversed in January. Like in the last 4 freaking years. And I wish this guy would have just kind of stopped after 3-4 days. After less than a week, Bitcoin ripped in January. And he's putting this right here at Christmas time. So this is all, the vertical lines are all on the 24th. You see, red for a few days, ripped. Red for a few days, ripped. Did do a lower low, but then ripped. Red for a few days, ripped. Did do a lower low, but still ripped. And then red for a few days. If it's 4 out of 4, we're going to have a pretty good January, folks. But expect some pain. Because look how painful the first half of January is. But then it starts to get a little bit better. This chart's a little bit fugazi because this is already July right there. But either way, you always see the red candles after Christmas, at least in the 2020s.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a lot of people step away for the holidays and they come in and start kind of doing their year-end work, like you were mentioning, whether it's tax loss harvesting or accumulating or whatever it is that they're doing. That a lot of that happens in the last couple of days. The other thing we didn't talk about that was worth mentioning with the overnight repo action that the Fed was doing is last time we saw stuff like that, it led to obviously $6 trillion in stimulus the following year. When we were seeing these types of levels of, and they're really like, it's an emergency overnight repo. It's really like an emergency bailout of some bank somewhere. We talked about a little bit yesterday, UBS and likely HSBC or some other European banks are going under with that silver squeeze, or at least in deep, missing a margin call and very overexposed. So that's when the Fed steps in to try to like prop these guys up. So we saw that happen in 2019, and then 2020 we saw $6 trillion in stimulus. We already know next year the big beautiful bill has $3.5 trillion baked in. The question is, do we see more than $6 trillion? Which it's, history would say yes. I mean, 2008 they had a huge stimulus. 2020 they had more than they did in 2008. Arguably, we're going to need more in 2026 than we did in 2020. So, we could likely see $6 trillion plus in stimulus next year. That's how Bessent and Trump are able to come out and speak so confidently, like, oh, markets are going to be booming next year, because they know the amount of stimulus that's coming is going to just absolutely flood the markets with money, and all assets are going to go up. So stimulus is coming. And if you're not, we've been telling you to get prepared. You have probably a few more weeks, maybe a couple months, but likely we're going to have to pass that bill with the government shutdown. If you don't remember when all that stuff was going on, they kind of just passed like a temporary thing. I think that's going to have to repass in January or February. So it's likely going to, and then same with the market structure bill. I think both of those things happen late January, early February. And then after that, markets just start to absolutely rip. So that's why I'm playing it. I'm just kind of sitting back and enjoying the quiet before the storm. We're prepared, and Q1, late Q1, early Q2. Hopefully, that's when the fun starts.
And
again.
Quiet Storm, the best Mobb Deep song and one of the best rap songs of the entire 1990s. All right, let's. I got two more macro signals for 2026. Why things are going to be bullish. One, Bitcoin ETF flows. The outflows have reduced significantly, and they're now going towards zero. And you can see what happened last time. This isn't a guarantee for Bitcoin to go back to all-time highs, but it is a strong signal. And you can see right here. So this is the outflows trending towards zero. Not saying it's, flipping bullish green just yet, but you kind of see, chopped around for a little bit, then huge inflows. Just go straight up from Bitcoin's price. That looks like a really good opportunity. You can see Bitcoin's price just going on a mega run there. And then last but not least, we got the symmetrical triangle targeting 107,000. This one gets an asterisk. This one, I'm not going to say, we're 3 for 3 bull signals here. We're 2.5. This is a 50-50. This is the symmetrical triangle. They cheat in the article. We've talked about this before a lot. You can see they don't draw the vertical line after a touch on the top and a touch on the bottom. They just basically lie, just start it from the beginning. So instead of the line right here, because, both sides have been hit, they're starting here. Dubious. 2 strikes against Gryffindor. I'm not a fan here. Let's go ahead and I'll tell you the 50-50. It could go down, folks. It's not a guarantee it's going to go up. It could go down. So we might be looking at pain, and that pain could be $72,000. Or we're looking at a nice gain. That gain's going to put us back above 100. That's going to be at 104. So Tom Lee, he's tomorrow's Tom Sawyer. Tom Lee gets $35 million bonus voted January 15th, 2026. He's buying $300 million a week at ETH now. After his bonus is secured, his incentive to buy aggressively ends. Does this mean ETH converges lower? It's actually not a bad theory.
Thanks for the super chat. And I know I've seen you in here before, and I know you're a very loyal viewer. I don't really understand why his incentive changes after the bonus. Like, I guess help me understand that. What's the correlation between his bonus and his incentive to buy? Is it based on how much Ethereum they have? Because that'd be a strange way to have a bonus, but maybe it is. I would think it's more based on long term, but no, I don't think so. I mean, I think again, Ethereum has been in accumulation mode. If you look at the charts for quite some time, even longer than Bitcoin has, in my opinion. All of Larry Fink has been basically out there apostolizing Ethereum to all of the asset managers and stock market and everybody on there, saying tokenize everything, and all the tokenization, all the stable coins coming on chain. That's all happening. Not all. 90 something percent happening through Ethereum. All right, what you got on the bonus?
This is dubious. I haven't verified myself. I haven't gone into the source material, which I always do like to do when I do my research. I go to the source material. We're not just some AI slop. Oh man, I didn't expose Rodney, TJ. I meant to. I didn't do it. I missed out. It was literally, I'm not kidding, TJ, 6 posts in a row from this morning stream. Rodney AI slop on the bottom. Timing matters, not conviction. Just stupid crap like that. 2-3 words, comma, 2-3 words again and again and again. But now I'm getting a little. But this is Tom Lee. So yeah, there is a signing bonus up front, 15 mil. But here's why it might be incentive to keep the music playing. 35 million over 5 years. Some of this is going to have, forward guidance. So how's the company doing in 2027? So if he wants to take 15 and run, yeah, maybe, he doesn't care about the company anymore, but the majority of the money is going to be vested over the next few years. So he does have a long-term, let's just say timeline, a long-term incentive here.
That's kind of what I fear. That's usually how they structure those things. I mean, the people at that level, they're very sophisticated and they know how to align incentives with their interests. And so, yeah, Tom Lee, I don't think he's obviously he's very well known on Wall Street. He's not a fly by night type fund manager. I think he really does believe in Ethereum. I think he does know he has inside information about what other managers and what other brokerages and asset managers are doing. And I think he's got a very strong bull case for Ethereum. And I think it will. I do not believe Ethereum is going to go significantly lower in 2026. I believe we see new all-time highs sooner rather than later in 2026 and well beyond. So, because again, we couldn't quite break up towards that 5,000 level. We kept pushing up towards 4,500 and couldn't quite break through it this year. But I think once we do, I mean, Ethereum is just coiled up more than anything on the market, really. I mean, even more than Bitcoin. So I think Bitcoin will be violent. I think Ethereum will. All of the people that said alt season is dead forever will all come rushing back in when Ethereum's over $5,000.
And maybe those people will stop using AI slop on their posts. We looked at this post earlier. Conviction shows before profits. Okay, you didn't type that. History favors patience here. Okay, dude. What do you? Smart money. Stop panicking. Just shut up already. Rare signals reward patient conviction. I'm losing brain cells from reading those responses there. Rodney, yeah, I like it. You're a smart guy. Stop with the AI slop. I've had enough. You are making, and those like you are making X unusable. And I'm getting to the point. I'm gonna start muting and banning and blocking and just. I'm just tired of opening a post and it's just AI slop, AI slop, AI slop, like crappy metaphor, 2-3 words, comma, 2-3 words, just again and again and again.
DZ hates AI slop, guys. In case you can't tell, he hates AI writing.
It's because I wrote a book.
Yeah, no, I get it, and I see this guy AI put reply guys out of work, and I do feel that somewhat, like being a good reply guy used to be a skill, and now it's just filled with bots and AI, and people just reply. And it is obviously it's a way to grow an account, gain engagement. Like look, he was the top of every single one of those posts. He's top of mind.
Oh, I've interacted with it. Just I go to his account, then I hit replies. Following like the next day or two, he gets annexed to the top every single time.
Right. Yeah. And that's part of what
I got rage baited.
Yeah, it worked. But yeah, it is the AI content world is very interesting to me, and it's fascinating. It's worse on LinkedIn. I can't. The everything is worse on LinkedIn when it comes to content.
What about Blue Sky? Maybe I'll switch, man. I'll go to Blue Sky. I don't know if I'll get any traction on there, but I can.
You're gonna get You'll be deleted in 15 minutes.
I will LARP. Okay, I'll LARP. I voted for John Kerry. All right, I was young. I was like, this guy's a Vietnam vet. But hey, I can LARP. I'll just pull up a photo of like Kerry, Kerry bumper sticker or something. Who's the guy he had with the haircut? Who's like caught cheating on his running? John Edwards. Yeah, I'll get a Kerry Edwards bumper sticker. All right, let's talk about some predictions here. Wall Street Journal throwing Larry Fink under the bus. A couple other people. Let's see here. So Bitcoin boosters, they're super bullish about the prospects earlier this year, predicting it's going to soar due to institutional adoption, crypto-friendly Trump administration. But even Wall Street stalwarts such as Larry Fink talked up its potential, but it didn't happen. With less than 2 days left, it's now trading near 90, down roughly 6% year to date. Here's some crappy forecasts. Bernstein, it's a group of bears, crypto bear. No, I'm just kidding. A joint venture between Alliance Bernstein and Societe Generale. They said in July, Bitcoin 200K by the end of 2025. Nope. Or early 26. Standard Charter, year-end target, 200K for Bitcoin. They did change it a few weeks ago. Now they're saying 100K. Bitwise, they predicted a year ago, surpassed 200K in 2025. Even in June, hey, man, there's just too much demand for it to stay flat for that long. Even in June, they were saying 200K. Tom Lee, speaking of Tom Lee, 200K. Are you seeing a theme? 250 this year. He did act a little bit more measured last month. He said, maybe above 100K. Larry Fink, he said 700K, but he didn't give a time span. Eventually, I think we all agree with that. It is going to $1 million a coin. And then Kathy Wood, she has a long-term prediction, 1.5 by 2030. But last month, she lowered it, 1.2 million. So just kind of looking at some of those predictions. So I know I asked yesterday, I'm asking again today, your prediction for 2026, the high, what did I say? I think I said, what was it? 169
is what you said yesterday. Yeah.
169, 420.
Yeah. Well, what my takeaway from that article is we're just as smart as, Bitwise and Tom Lee and all the other, Kathy Wood and all the other major ones. Maybe we take a play out of Larry Fink's playbook and don't put a time horizon on it. But I still believe 700K at some point is going to happen. 1.5 million at some point is going to happen. But no, I'm still right where I was yesterday. But let us know. This was a question I was going to ask the chat. Somebody earlier, they were talking about a lot of people like to buy altcoins that they think when Bitcoin runs, this altcoin will all perform and they'll use it to get more Bitcoin. Right. Yeah. And so my question for the chat, anybody who's watching right now, is what coin is that for you? What's the coin you're buying that you think? You're buying it. Exactly. June of next year when everything's running, I think this one's going to pump more than Bitcoin. I'm going to sell it back to Bitcoin. For me, that a lot of times that's Solana. I do think Solana has the ability to, it has a little bit more volatility. Morpho, Arrow. Yeah, those are two. Arrow for me is a big one. I use Arrow a lot. So it's not purely hold and sell, but I've got a lock and all kinds of different stuff. But
I'll say Aave for me, because I want to sell into a friendly administration legislation pump.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that's what we're moving into next year for sure. I could even just keep it simple and do Ethereum, right? That's a big, I do think Ethereum is a kind of an infrastructure layer play. I do think it will have a window. A lot of times it's only, a month or two, 6 or 8 weeks where Ethereum does outperform Bitcoin in a significant way.
My little Ondo I have left. Yeah, I don't plan on long-term Ondo. I want to sell Ondo into a pump as well.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's, at this point for most people it's probably almost anything. But yeah, exactly. That's what I was just saying. My whole portfolio. Sui, another one. I see Steve-O here with Sol, Arrow, Virtual Tau.
Doge. I have a small bag of Doge that, I got really, really cheap. So, I didn't sell enough. I meant to sell at 30 cents. It hit 29.5 cents. This is a few months ago. We're talking about it at 20 cents. Guys, this is going to 30. It's going to 30. I see it in the charts. It went to 29.5, touched 30 cents for an hour, 2 a.m. I'm asleep. I missed my sell. So Doge, I am waiting to dump that dog poop.
Yeah, Monad. I've got tiny moon bags of a lot of these. Monad, I've got a tiny bit of almost, a lot of the stuff that's been mentioned, Sui, ETH, but same. For me, the big holdings are Ethereum, and really it's Solana. If I see, and I do think Solana can, maybe do a 4 or 5x while Bitcoin does a 2x type stuff, or Bitcoin does a 2.5 and Solana does a 6x, and then I roll all that back in. And I've got, and then the other question I'd be interested, and maybe you don't put this in the chat because it's not good OPSEC, but I think I highly encourage people to set a Bitcoin goal. Don't set a net worth goal in dollars. I used to do this, and then I changed it because I think it's actually much more advantageous to say, I'm trying to get to a certain amount of Bitcoin. So obviously we're at year end, we're at goal setting. I don't know if everybody does that. I would highly encourage you to do that. I do an exercise with a lot of the guys here where I have them kind of visualize 10 years out from now and work backwards. Very big advocate of that. But set your goal based on Bitcoin value rather than dollar value, because if everything we know is coming happens and they devalue the dollar like crazy, $1 million end of next year is not what $1 million was 6 years ago or 8 years ago. But one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. So if you say, hey, whether it's one Bitcoin or half a Bitcoin, I don't know where you are, but half a Bitcoin, one Bitcoin, 10 Bitcoin, 1,000 Bitcoin, whatever it is, pick your Bitcoin number, track your portfolio in Bitcoin, and it does help you. It helps you measure things differently. If you look at all of your holdings priced in Bitcoin versus priced in dollars, it kind of resets your thinking a little bit. Sometimes it makes it easier to hold cash if you have a big cash infusion and you're just feeling, like me, I get itchy with cash. Like, I got to get it in the market. I know this cash is going down slowly. But if you're looking at your cash balance in Bitcoin and Bitcoin's going down, and all of a sudden now, oh, hey, my portfolio value is going up in Bitcoin terms because cash is stagnant while Bitcoin is dropping, it makes it easier for me. Like this last third of cash, it's made it a lot easier for me to hold that cash versus just YOLO into Bitcoin at 87K because let's see. GM, are we exiting ADA at 420?
So I have stacked sells. I will sell some at 2. I will sell some at 3. I will sell a bunch at 4. And if I have any, like $6 would probably be the point where I'm like buying a lot of Bitcoin with that ADA. And I'm not really selling the ADA for USD. Selling ADA is more accumulate more Bitcoin strategy. And I do like to play between Bitcoin and ADA. We pulled the trigger a little bit early, but we did sell into a pump at the tail end of 2024. Problem is we rotated back into ADA way too early there. Someone did ask about Injective. Injective does have a pretty interesting chart. Injective's at a very strong level of support. You can see it was support here in 21. It was also support right before, the last dead cat bounce. And you can see it was also resistance right here. So this looks good, from a risk reward perspective. One last thing I would say, it is oversold, heavily oversold. Last time we hit this level of oversold, it essentially was a bottom. But let me give you the bear case here. This level of support to that other level is a huge loss. I think it's around 85%. That is going to be not as bad as I thought. You could still lose 70% on this. So just be very careful and don't have too much in Injective that you can't afford to lose. But I would say that's a very good level. Wait, we don't have. That's a back the truck up and buy more area there. But if you have long-term conviction, maybe hold on to it. Should we talk about Elio trades theory, TJ?
Yeah, sure. Let's get into it.
All right. Elio's got a wild theory, and it's this guy right here. And it's piercing eyes caught me there. If you don't know who this guy is, is the CEO of Citadel. Why is Citadel sound? Is that from Halo or something? No, Citadel. They became a lot more popular during the short squeeze on GameStop. So Citadel, they're, kind of colluding with Robinhood. Court documents have found this. There was Slack communication between the two executives. There's a email that is often cited. It was in the congressional reports. It's in a bunch of lawsuits. And the email, I think it says something to the effect of, we're in a lot of trouble over here, they said to the Robinhood people. Then like the next day, Robinhood halted trading. They said it was all collusion there. So this guy right here.
That looks like Brad Garlinghouse's cousin.
It does favor him a little bit. It really does. He looks like that. It was a clean comic, Brian Regan. He kind of
the comic from my childhood. Yeah,
it looks a little Brian Regan there.
Elio, like Brian Regan. Brian Regan's got a much more like smushed head, not a round head. Brian Regan's much goofier looking than that guy.
It's more the eyes to me and the quintessential goofy white guy in a TV commercial. Like if this is the guy that doesn't know how to operate a toaster with his Pop-Tarts. Whoa, and it like pops out and hits the floor. Dad, that's what this guy looks like there.
I'll give you that. Yeah.
Maybe those commercials will stop one. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, Elio is saying this is the guy behind 1010, behind all the liquidations. The reason your alts look like they died. He's blaming him. I have a wild theory about the real motives behind 1010, not the mechanics of what happened, but more so figuring out who benefits the most from this event. CZ. Anyways, what could be happening behind the scenes? My theory is it was a changing of the guard from old market makers to new market makers. Market making and arbitrage trading are the simple way to extract money from crypto. the big Wall Street guys don't want to settle to battle for positioning against the entrenched juggernauts like Wintermute. So what do? Wipe them off the board before coming in to fix the situation and forever leech off crypto flows. It's just a theory, but I'm guessing this guy benefits most from wiping all the market makers. Do you have any thoughts on this wild theory?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know for sure if it would be Citadel or Ken Griffey Jr., not the baseball player, but
Griffin.
Griffin.
Yeah.
I know it's a joke, but I do believe there is something like this at play for sure. That I've said this before. I think I've said it on the channel that people like to point at crypto market makers or dark pools or Binance as like, oh, they're this big, powerful entity in crypto. And they are. I'm not trying to say that they're not a powerful player within the crypto landscape, but we have to realize all of crypto is a couple $1 trillion, compared to broader markets, gold, silver, we were talking about yesterday, orders of magnitude. The overall equities and real estate and bond markets and all these other markets are orders of magnitude bigger than the crypto market. And they've all got market makers. They've all got dark pools. They've all got high frequency trading, front running, and doing all these different things. Robinhood, obviously, like you mentioned, has been very well known for trading against their people or using this what do they call it? Order for I forget the phrase of it, but it's basically market making and order for. There's a phrase.
Order book flow.
No, it's something like that. It's where they're getting paid to keep things flowing well, and they're buying and selling, and they're trading micro cents against the people. And they've been doing this much longer. They've been doing this hundreds of years, not 10 years, and they're much more entrenched with much more powerful people. And that's kind of what I've been saying. When nation states are getting involved, now you're talking about big money. Now you're talking about old money. JP Morgan has lost more money in their couch cushions than CZ could manipulate. We haven't seen real manipulation. And that's pretty much what I'm talking about. I agree. And so I don't know if it's Citadel that's at play here. I mean, oftentimes you're not going to know the names of these types of people. It was a lot of if you consider what was going on with, Bernie Madoff back in the day with running dark pools. I mean, there's just a lot of opportunity for manipulation if you really are facilitating the plumbing of markets. And so, yes, I do believe Binance was largely responsible for the 10/10 event. Not necessarily. I don't think it's CZ. I would point more towards Richard Tang, but Binance,
Little Dick Tang.
Yeah, Binance pulling their liquidity, I think, had a lot to do with a lot of these different exchanges who get their liquidity from Binance, and then it made every order book illiquid on alts, and we saw insanely low prices. It liquidated everybody. So I do think that was a big part of it. But then who has influence over Binance? You can kind of back into that. The Chinese Communist Party. And then how do they manipulate markets? How do they run market?
Look what they're doing with
makers and dark
silver
pools?
today, China specifically.
Exactly. And look at how much larger of a market it is and how much more money they're working with. So yes, I do believe this is something worth investigating further. I do believe it was not a natural market condition event. And that's part of, you can tell because nothing has really been organic since that day. And I do believe, it has a lot to do with stable coins. It has a lot to do with the US moving into Bitcoin and crypto. Again, it comes back to what I said at the top of the show with Scott Bessent. He was right there with Soros crashing the pound. He understands currency wars better than most people. If you guys don't know how George Soros made all his money, it was basically the downfall of the British pound and shorting that into the ground and making insane amounts of money on everybody else's devastation. So we've got somebody who understands that world better than anybody now leading us into a world where he's talking about another Bretton Woods type of agreement, which is likely the end of a full, a one world reserve currency being the US dollar. Everybody sees that coming, and we're moving into that now. If you don't think major players that are much bigger than crypto are now pulling all the strings they can to manipulate everything in their favor, then you're just either asleep at the wheel or naive or maybe a little bit of both. So yeah, I think it's worth digging into more, getting more information about this stuff, because there are people that profited a lot from that and will continue to profit a lot. I do believe anybody who like the Wintermutes of the world, they had their day in the sun. They made an insane amount of money. And maybe that's what 10/10 was about. They knew their time was over and they're going to get as much as they can on the way out the door. And because now the big boys are here.
But that was always a competing narrative, you know. In the subsequent weeks after 10/10, there was, well, market makers blew it up, but then you're also hearing, well, market makers are in the red. So it's like, well, do they do this to make money, or did it happen and they lost money? And if you can't, you know, if you're throwing out both those theories, you really don't know what you're talking. No, I'm not saying, you know, anyone just kind of throwing out like, oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. So which is it? You know, do they lose money or do they make money? I got a different theory on Wintermute specifically here. So Citadel, you know, they are the players. TJ, would you agree with the thesis that the big firms are all on some level friendly with one another?
On some level, in the sense of like
Jamie Dimon and Larry Fink. You know, sure, maybe, you know, the battle of like trying to get someone's business, they're cutthroat. It's a knife fight. But when it comes to, you know, let's be aligned to talk to this politician, or, you know, let's fund the same political action committee, they're aligned.
Yeah, they're cordial, and I think it's a lot of times, you know, keep your friends close, your enemies closer, or your enemy of my enemy is my friend.
A lot of them went to the same schools. They went to the same fraternities. They're in the same, I'll say it, secret societies. They're, you know, a lot of the shareholders, there's a lot of collusion. You know, you ever see a thing? It's like, well, the shareholder holds some of this and some of that, but I thought they hated each other. But like, well, if you have investments in both, you don't care who wins. So, and you know, I kind of lean a little bit more towards a friendly environment. And if you look, Citadel is working with BlackRock. Citadel Securities and BlackRock back project. So, you know, this is a big Wall Street player. We expect that. But Wintermute is also working with BlackRock. So Wintermute's not getting kicked out of the club, in my opinion. Wintermute is becoming the club. And so I don't really see much of a, you know, Ken Griffin is out to kill Wintermute. I think they're embracing Wintermute with open arms at these luncheons, these backroom meetings, and these, you know, big crypto weeks in Washington, D.C. They're all hanging out and they're all very buddy.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I mean of like, they are until they aren't. They're cordial, and because they might be trying to absorb Wintermute, and so yeah, they're going to be very nice to you as you're buddying up to them, and then you're going to take over their business and just say, all right, we're in control now. And Wintermute may not want to give up that control, but they may not get a choice. Another thing that's interesting about Citadel, unlike JP Morgan, unlike BlackRock, a lot of these other public companies, Citadel's a completely private company. You know, so Ken Griffin,
yeah, he owns 80% of it.
And so, and then who influences him and in what ways? And it's kind of like those ones that are able to stay private longer, like the SpaceXs and the Teslas and or not Tesla, but SpaceX and X and some of those kind of things. Now, obviously, they're going to be IPOing next year, but you're able to obfuscate the information a little bit more of who has what influence and what say and all that type of stuff. So this is the high level finance games that are being played. And to your question of if they're friendly or not, I would, you know, I'd say yes, they absolutely are until they aren't. Kind of like that. I wish I could remember the name of that documentary. I'm a big fan of it, that talked about a lot of the early stock market. What do you got here? When I'm old enough to remember the time, we used to blame all the bad prices action on Alameda instead of Wintermute. Absolutely. I remember F2 pool, you know, it used to be the Chinese.
Oh, it used to be. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. There's always a boogeyman. There's always a boogeyman. I just don't know if that boogeyman is Ken Griffin. I think he is so highly scrutinized and watched, and he does have enemies. You know, he like short sells. He has enemies. I think he would be a little bit more careful risking, let's just say, fines. I don't think he'd be risking jail time, but, you know, I don't think he'd be risking reputational loss for this $2 trillion ecosystem. He would do it for a $30 trillion ecosystem like gold, or $11 trillion ecosystem like silver, or a $100 trillion ecosystem like derivatives. There,
Absolutely.
I'll risk playing fast and loose with the rules. Do you risk playing fast and loose with the rules for a $2 trillion asset? 1.7.
You get somebody else to do it on your behalf. That's usually what they do.
Yeah, and that's not a bad theory. Let's talk a little Iran here. I got to be a little bit careful. You know, we don't want to get demonetized. We don't want to get deboosted by YouTube. If you want to help us out, maybe give us a repost on X, give us a thumbs up. You know, maybe comment on the YouTube video. But Iranian protests over a currency collapse shows why Bitcoin is needed. I think we do have a quick video. This is I can't verify this. I don't know if this is CIA or, you know, actual protests in Iran. I'm not sure. The suspicious timing with, let's just say, Trump's actions is the only thing, you know, really kind of making me suspicious. But the rial has lost 40% of its purchasing power since the 2-week war with Israel in June. So Their currency has plummeted 40% since June, is now at a record low to the US dollar. I'm going to show you the chart in 1 second. It is down bad. The chief strategy officer for the Bitcoin-focused Human Rights Foundation pointed out the official rate in the 80s, 70 per dollar. Now it's 1.4 million to the dollar. So we're seeing a lot of issues there. It initially it looked like a bunch of merchants took the street. Now we're starting to see university students take the street. This is their currency compared to the US dollar. This is only October 22, and it is down 94%. You zoom out, it gets uglier, folks. It gets a lot uglier. So
Jeez.
that is, there's a lot of protests. Bitcoin fixes this, folks. So Bitcoin, just a little Bitcoin shout out right there. Speaking of geopolitics, let's bring it back to America. Democrat Representative Waters, Democrat Maxine Waters, demands SEC oversight hearing. So she's calling for a hearing with the SEC Chair Paul Atkins, highlighting her concerns over the agency's dismissal of crypto cases and 9 other points of contention. She has 10 points she thinks the oversight meeting needs to address. Let's just jump to, I'm not going to break down every single one. SEC independence, politicization. All right, so Trump, you're too involved. Dismissal of major crypto enforcement actions. CZ, get your ass back in jail. Sorry for the cuss word. Shrouding policymaking in darkness. I love the persuasion here. One, they're not having discussions. They're shrouding things in darkness, not in privacy, not with secrecy. They're shrouding it in darkness, TJ.
Yeah.
So
speaking of manipulation, here we go right here.
Yeah.
This is how Citadel and the Griffiths, they find the legal ways to kind of bend the rules in their favor.
Yeah, this is their foot soldier. Maxine Waters is a foot soldier for the banking cartel.
The SEC in general is, if you look at how the SEC was formed and what it's basically been a fakeade since it started. So, the whole thing is a joke.
It's Wall Street's Gestapo. All right, coin that one. Put that on the T-shirt next to proto dank sharding. All right, we also got a withdrawal of investor protection rulemaking. So how dare you lower some of these crazy regulations? Delays to private fund transparency. Just a little rule that's extending a deadline there to 2028. She doesn't like that. I want transparency today. Erosion of shareholder rights. I would say that's one I actually agree with. Deregulating securities markets. Regulation post Frank Dodd Act in 2008 has basically proven, well, the lobbyists write the regulation paperwork or framework. So it just kind of entrenches and helps out Wall Street. So deregulating, you got to be real careful with that one. Abandonment of climate risk disclosure. Are we still talking about the climate scam in 2025, 2026? Clearly fake. Maybe I'll bring that to the members only stream on Friday. I'm going to do one this Friday. Weakening market surveillance. We need more policemen out there. Reduction of corporate reporting. That one's probably pretty good. Audit oversight. Give us a committee. Yeah, we need more committee. Staffing. They have a problem with them firing some of the lazy people. I said it. Ethics and conflicts of interest. And, that one's going to be very subjective. So that one's also going to just be, I don't know, enforcement only actions. They're just going to be looking to create enemies with that. So that's Maxine Waters' 10 points. She's got an issue with you, Paul Atkins. She's coming. You better strap up, Atkins.
Yeah, the whole thing's a joke. I mean, I that's why I hate politics. It just gets irritating when I see it. It's all designed for it. They're all just tools for the rich and powerful to kind of stay behind the law and use the law to manipulate things in their favor. That's literally all it is, and it's all it's ever been. So
that's all it ever will be.
And they can use it for social grandstanding or whatever you want to call it. Gaslighting the public that they have strong ethics and that they're not going to do whatever they can to enrich themselves and really don't care about the small person at all. And I don't even know if I mean, obviously a lot of these senators are bought off, so I do blame them. I think a lot of people go into it, well-intentioned, but by the time they get to any version of power, they're so purchased by every state or industry or, opposing nation, and you can draw your own conclusions from all that stuff, but it's really at this point, government is the pinnacle of white collar crime, but without it being crime.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Did I say that? Did I say that? We didn't talk about it yesterday.
We didn't.
We're probably not going to talk about it, but
I saw funny posts on X that was like, man, all the Facebook people are going to have their minds blown when they hear about this stuff in 5 days. And it's That's probably true. It's probably just now getting to Facebook.
Shout out to Nick Shirley. Don't call me Shirley, damn it.
Yeah.
I don't know why I did an airplane reference there. All right, just a couple last things I want to end here. This week, what do we expect? Pretty big week, actually. We have a house index thing. I'll look at that. Maybe we'll cover the afternoon stream. Fed minutes are coming out 2 p.m., basically kind of looking at what their upcoming meeting. So they're going to be looking for a deepening divide amongst officials over future rate cuts. We get jobless claims tomorrow. New Year's Eve, the New Year's Day, stock market will be shut. New Year's Eve, stock market closes early, 2 p.m. And Friday, we get the PMI, just kind of related to the business cycle there. And so we're going to be seeing that data. And this is probably going to be the most important one. And then on Sunday, OPEC meeting, monthly meeting. That one's a lot going to be right on that one. XRP, you now got 29 days inflow. Pat yourselves on the back. Why don't they trigger price increase? Well, the guy selling XRP ETFs, he basically just says, well, we buy OTC. Everything is OTC, over-the-counter transactions. And they're buying from, eventually is coming from an escrow wallet. If you don't know, XRP releases 1 billion tokens every month, and then they usually vacuum up 80%, 70% back. But the remaining 200, 300 million tokens they sell over the counter, they'll say for liquidity. Some
Ripple,
will say,
you mean.
you're just selling it to make money. That's your business model, is selling XRP.
Yeah, Ripple. And also Bitcoin, just if we want to check back in on that, is pushing 89K. So nice to see. It looks like, maybe we covered a lot. Kelly was breaking down the major options expiry that was on the 26th. Now that we're past that and into a regular trading week, it looks like it's trying to break out. And we haven't been able to hold that line. Is that 90K or close to it, that yellow line there?
Now that's the fall, and that's that symmetrical triangle that gives us like the 70 or the 104 target.
But what is
just the breakout? This is just the symmetrical triangle over the last 7 days, something like that.
Gotcha.
Way more. Yeah, almost a month here.
Yeah. So okay. So we're close to a potential breakout there. If we can hold above that line, that would be very, very good. And then last thing I wanted to ask you before we wrapped up, DZ, I saw you posted this. Bull reignite soon. You've been warned. What is this about?
Did I just post that? This is the second time this has happened. All right, little behind the scenes action. I scheduled that post last year. And so let's look here. I'll show you what it looks like here. So I think you can share here. So if you go to schedule a post, it will take you to this. It puts you like 2 weeks in the future, a week in the future. So I did this like, no. I want to post today or tomorrow. And because my screen isn't. So then I would go to the 30th or whatever, and I didn't change the year. That is the second one. I'm glad you put that on my radar. I am going to have to delete that. So I do want to thank you. But this is what I wanted to end with here.
Yeah.
This is the second one. I was posting like crazy at the end of the year with my scheduled posts. Now I'm more of a, how I feel in the moment. This is an interesting theory. The best strategy in the past decade is buy whatever excites man children. Do you remember how weed stocks were like crazy? The penny stocks were like the meme coin market of 2021. Weed penny stocks were so big 10 years ago. Blockchain. So this is exciting the man children. Weed, blockchain, GameStop, electric cars, monkey JPEGs, uranium, graphic cards, sparkly metals. If it's shiny, sci-fi, nerdy, or belongs in mom's basement, it's a buy. So what's the nerdy man-child investment for 2026? That's a good theory, right? I was like, wait a minute. I can't disagree with this.
Yeah, it's interesting. It reminds me, I saw something yesterday. There's a YouTube channel that's kind of viral. It's Faceless, where a guy talks about financial advice over old school Modern Warfare Call of Duty clips, like gameplay. And it's just because it triggers the nostalgia in a lot of the guys that were our age that grew up playing. And by the way, I did want to come back to, now that we're back to, I saw somebody talking about Halo 3 because you mentioned the Citadel and all that stuff, and everyone's like, "Oh, great game!" And that was the game. That was the first time I played online first-person shooter. I'm just curious, what was the game that did you ever play first-person shooters?
Oh yeah. I was so deep into Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. I was
Modern
at
Warfare
top
2, yeah.
0.01% score-wise, not KD. but my
Yeah.
score was like totally insane.
And you had all the gold guns. I had the headshots.
I wasn't a headshot guy. I was a RPD, which is a light machine gun. Some
Yeah.
sales in Vegas. I don't,
MP5 with the
and so
silencer.
you're just aiming for center body mass.
Yeah, I ran with the MP5 with suppressor and
I was cheesy. I did the tack insertion.
oh, okay. Yeah. I can't even remember all the perks or whatever. Yeah, I loved Modern Warfare 2 as well. That was but I started, my first one was Halo 3. I'm just curious, if you played a first person shooter, what was your onboarding event? Was it
GoldenEye, Nintendo 64,
yeah.
man. It's GoldenEye all day, every day.
Of course,
Perfect Dark was good too.
Yeah, just do odd job and full crouch and you couldn't be beat.
Yeah, and I want to say it was like Faceball or something was the first person shooter, and it was on Super Nintendo. Super Nintendo is actually the first to have a first person shooter. It was blocky, like triangles and circles and cubes.
Was
and
that
you just
before Doom? Because I think of Doom a lot of times as it wasn't
console. You are correct. It's the first console first person shooter. Doom is the first PC first person shooter. Great distinction there.
Yeah, I have childhood memories back on Christmas when I was a kid. They'd be trying to get the kids to bed on like Christmas Eve and stuff, and then my dad and his brother and his parents and sister would all hook up the computers on a LAN and play Doom against each other, and that's how I think of Doom, and then the rest is history. But yeah, gotta have some fun and play some games sometime. I'm seeing all this stuff rolling through here. A lot of people saying Doom, Duck Hunt. That's okay. That's an OG shooter, I guess.
I guess it counts.
Nukem. I played Duke Nukem, the old school one. I played that on like a 75 RAM computer back in the day. One of the first computers I ever had. That was probably the first video game that wasn't like an educational game that I ever played. So that was a throwback. I'm glad I asked. Totally forgot about Duke.
Oh no, Faceball beat it. I was right. Faceball beat it in 1991. Doom was 1993. Wolfenstein actually beat Doom.
For PC?
Yeah. 92. Faceball is number one. Faceball, Wolfenstein, then Doom. No one knows about Faceball, though. That is a deep cut. Me and my buddies used to play this like in the mid to late 90s, like 96, 97. We loved that game.
Played a ton of Math Blaster for sure. Same era as Duke Nukem. I was playing a lot of Math Blaster. No, that does not count as a first person.
All right. Well, folks, that is our show for today. Let us know in the comments if you're watching the recording. Type in your favorite first person shooter. We'll probably look at them and just have some internal. We're going to go to war. We're going to have debates over it.
I saw Drew in his office. Drew has an old Game Boy Color with Pokemon Blue in it, I think, sitting on his desk behind him. So there you go.
This guy's in crypto too much because he didn't type in Oregon Trail. He typed in Origin Trail, TRAC.
Great project, by the way. But yeah. All right. We'll see you guys.
All right. We got dysentery.
We just wanted to take a quick second to shout out our sponsor, Arculus. They are a cold storage hardware wallet, helps you secure all of your digital assets for the future. Just tap this thing to the back of your phone and boom, you're in. We wouldn't be able to do this without them, but also wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, the Disco fam. You've supported us a lot over the years. If you want to support the channel now, just use the code DC20. It gets you 20% off this card. It's the #1 way you can support this channel going forward. Thank you for your support. We'll see you at the top.